Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another round of the Middle of the Pack Racing League Touring Car Racing Championship for 2022. And tonight marks round number 8 of the 9-round calendar. As the series continues the Japanese Cup, we are still in Japan for the second of the 3 rounds located in the Japanese homeland. And it is the case that today we'll be heading to the Okayama International Circuit for what is expected to be a very tricky round for all of our drivers involved. Tricky for multiple reasons. Firstly, now there is the penultimate round in the series, it is the case that there are some major points on the line, and really this is the last chance for our drivers to get a key result on the board if they do not have any drop rounds before that drop round comes into effect for the season finale. And it is also the case, of course, for those drivers who took a drop round last week at Tsukuba, well, now they've got to look to get the maximum possible points. But on top of that as well, this circuit is perhaps one of the least known circuits on our calendar, because as we'll go on to explain a little bit later on, this circuit is more of a domestic Japanese racing circuit rather than an international one. So this circuit is going to be out there for the more extreme in terms of those who know their racing knowledge and know their racing circuits like the back of their hand. But those who are more focused on international circuits, this one may have come as a little bit of a surprise for our drivers. But either way, let's take you through our schedule for tonight. Our schedule, times in British Summer Time or UTC +1, is as follows. It will be the case at 8:15 this evening, so in just under 14 minutes time, we'll be getting underway with the qualifying session, 15 minutes, and that will be to determine our grid order for our one and only race. The one and only race following at 8:30, and that is the 20-minute sprint race, which will see our drivers go all in. There's no strategy other than get to the front of the pack, your chosen class, and it is the case that you need to finish first, not last, if you want to get those maximum possible points. Now in the commentary box, as always, you have myself, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Brit the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and tonight's broadcast is being brought to you via one of 2 media platforms for your viewing pleasure. If you are a Twitch user, you can tune in via twitch.tv/TX141. Alternatively, if you are on YouTube, you can tune in via my YouTube channel, that is youtube.com/ what I believe is TX141TX, alternatively under the name of Paul Walsh as well. But enough about me, let's talk about our drivers, because that's what we're all here for, the racing action between our drivers, and well, how things changed last week as we come over to our championship standings for the Pro Class, this being the overall championship rather than the Japanese Cup Championship. We can see that Jason Landry continues to lead the Pro Class on 135 points there, now 14 clear ahead of Austin Farr. It was the case going into last week's round at Tsukuba. The gap was 7 points. It has been doubled to 14 points, and that is because Landry was back on form at Tsukuba, getting the maximum possible points with an absolutely fantastic qualifying lap, followed up by an absolutely scintillating race performance where he was absolutely flawless and untouched. But it was the case that after the opening lap, he just left Farr and the rest of the Pro Pack in the dust. Will it be the case he's able to do that again tonight, or will Austin Farr or Conrad have something to say about that? Speaking of Austin Farr, of course, he's been Jason Landry's main contender and main challenger throughout the series, and Austin Farr will be bouncing back tonight and, of course, looking to get the maximum possible points to close that deficit and give himself the best possible chance going into the season finale next week. However, in P3, and really now battling to be the best of the rest, albeit he could overachieve and get ahead of the gap of Austin Farr, but we'll have to wait to see whether he's able to close it. It's a bit of an outside chance now. Conrad Mako there in P3 on 107 points. Another solid performance at Tsukuba, albeit falling back towards the end compared to some of his peers. The pace started to fall away, so wasn't able to get the best possible result that he could, and therefore his gap and advantage to Henry Morse in P4 of 12 points is a gap which could be closed in even further tonight, and Henry Morse, of course, will be looking to do that as best as possible. Tanner Dibble in P5 on 91 points, picking up some good points at Tsukuba, and now 91 points, only 1 point ahead of Sam Van Olst. Sam Van Olst, unfortunately, not having the best performance at Tsukuba by comparison, and as a result, dropping some key points, and he'll be looking to come back strong tonight. In P7, John Lauzon on 73 points, skipping last week's round, and we're hoping to see him take to the circuit tonight, along with Rocco Havaf, who on 67 points now, looking to pursue Lauzon with a gap of what is 6 points to close down. A further 7 points down, John Wilding there in P9 with Eric Nickers in P10. Both drivers opting not to race at Tsukuba for given reasons of their own, but most likely using it as a drop round. And then Jordan Butler, the first of our drivers outside the top 10 there on 56 points, only 1 point off of Eric Nickers, and the same with Daniel Downing, 1 point off of Jordan Butler in P12. Tristan Bayliss on 54 points there in P13, and it's Ben Rose, Adam Day and Thomas Toomey who complete our Pro Championship standings. In the instant count tally, of course, and that being a critical adventure there because there are prizes up for grabs for our instant count, particularly the driver with the lowest instant count come the end of it, assuming they have completed the majority of the racing rounds, that is 8 rounds or more. It is the case that right now, based on my knowledge, it would be Conrad Mako who is leading in the instant count tally when you consider all drivers who've actually participated in the majority of rounds on 16 instant points there, and he's being closely pursued by Rocco Havaf there on on 18 instant points. Meanwhile, at the opposite end of the spectrum is the case that 87 instant points to Jordan Butler there, and he will be looking to try and bring it down as much as possible. He won't be able to achieve the highest possible instant count now, there's no doubt about that, but it is the case he will not want to have the highest one come the end of it, because of course that's a little bit of a wooden spoon prize by comparison. Meanwhile, in the AM class, we look across to our AM class, by no means lesser than our Pro class in terms of the frantic action. And it is the case that Alberto Alvarez, who was absent at Tsukuba, still sits at the head of the championship standings there on 136 points. 11 clear of Duncan Moraes, with Edwin Onofre there on 120 points. The story last week was really about Duncan Moraes, whereby he came back very strong after the Edwin Onofre show over the course of the British Touring Car Cup. And it is the case that Duncan Moraes really reasserted his statement of being the main challenger to Alvarez there, in the end pipping Edwin Onofre to the win. And it is the case that whilst it was very close between them, it was Moraes who came up with the strategy to go on the offensive late on in the race and take the win. We're expecting more sparks to fly between the two of them, but of course they will both be wanting to reel in Alvarez, who we do believe will be taken to the circuit tonight. And the big question there, of course, with regards to Alvarez, if he is taken to the circuit, is, well, will he be able to win, or will it be Moraes or Onofre who takes that win and closes the gap even further? The best of the rest there in P4, Jermaine Warren with another great performance at Tsukuba, a great middle-of-the-field performance, and he'll be looking to continue that trend with Fernando Takahashi only 4 points behind in P5 on 84. A bit further back there in P6, Justin Bragger, the gap between the two drivers there being the best part of 17 points, and Justin Bragger really looking to try and get as close as possible to that top 5, or at least finish the top of outside of the top 5 there, come the end of the championship with a 5-point advantage to Danny Kimball. Mark Senegal in P8 on 61 points with good performance at Tsukuba, seeing him close up the gap a little bit more, with Tony Tran P9 and Lee Porter top 10 there, completed the top 10 in that P10 position on 57 points. You see how close it is between Tony Tran, Lee Porter and Rodney Felker there, and also Craig Parks, with Rodney Felker and Craig Parks combined 2 points off of Lee Porter there in P11 and P12 respectively. Albert Brand only a further 3 points back in P13, with Roger Ganesh there in P14 on 50 points, and it's the three drivers of Jackie Chu, Matthew Shepka and Stefan Chalafu who are completed our top 15 there, all three drivers in P15 on 48 points, and all three drivers, to be fair, having varied results at Tsukuba, and particularly Stefan Chalafu putting in a good performance in the Hyundai Veloster, and we saw that switch to the new touring car that's been introduced to iRacing really working out for the AM driver, and will it work out even further tonight? Meanwhile, Jackie Chu with an absolutely brilliant P3 finish in the end, and really the unsung hero of Tsukuba. We didn't see much screen time of him, but it was the case he pulled off a third place at Tsukuba in the Honda Civic Type R. Will he be able to make it another podium tonight, or at least a top 5 finish? The favourites would say so. But Gus Blundell, meanwhile, in at P18 now, 45 points, 2 ahead of Patrick Brady, who is a further 5 points ahead of Lucas Lagos, who completes our top 20, and it's Jeff Destino, Christian Jasper and Mason Roach who complete our AM Championship standings. In the instant count tally, meanwhile, when we take a look at the board on the far right of the screen, taking into account drivers who have not participated in the majority of the rounds, it is still Edwin Onofre who sits as our leader there on 17 instant points, albeit he is creeping a little bit closer to the likes of Rodney Felker now, and also Patrick Brady there, with respectively 22 and 23 instant points for the pair of them, and as a result, Edwin Onofre will try to reduce that instant count tally, or in terms of how much he gains over the course of tonight. At the opposite end of the spectrum, however, it is the case that we see that Jermaine Warren there on 69 instant points, and he will not be happy with that count, and he'll want to try and bring that down as much as possible with 2 rounds remaining. He won't want to pick up any more instant points, because again, he won't want to be known as the AM driver with the most incidents out of all his peers. But we come from our AM class standings to our team standings. There's no prizes up for grabs in the team's championship. This is more just a follow-on alongside, and it's Delta Motorsports who continues to lead on 282 points, an advantage which has been cut by Goldwing Motorsports in previous rounds, and Goldwing Motorsports Pro there on 266 points and looking to close that deficit even more. Middle of the pack there, the best of the rest in P3 on 212 points, but DNA getting a bit closer after Tsukuba. Now the gap between the two teams, they're standing at 16 points with DNA on 196, and they are 36 points ahead of the top 5 team of Sunday GT Turtles, completed our top 5 on 160. Ascension Racing in P6 on 132 with Goldwing Motorsports AM only 7 points behind on 125 in P7, RMS Racing in P8, and then Motors and Street Version complete our top 10, and it's Pan Am Racing and Arc Sim Racing team who complete our team championship standings. Now, meanwhile, in the Japanese Cup, we've only had 1 round, so it is the case, or abbreviated to the Asia Cup, it is the case that Jason Landry leads in the Pro class at this point in time, given his win at Tsukuba, his dominant performance at Tsukuba, 28 points to his name, with Austin Farr in 21, Tanner Dibble in P3, Sam Van Olst in P4, Conrad Bako P5, and Ben Rose at P6 on 15 points, and the rest of our drivers there did not participate. They were either not able to attend due to personal reasons, or opted to use it as a drop round by default by not attending, so as a result, they'll be looking to get on points on the board tonight. In the AM class, meanwhile, we had a greater AM field than we did pros last time out, and we can see it is the case that Duncan Moraes on 26 points, only 3 ahead of his main rival to be that challenger to Alberto Alvarez on 23 points ahead. Edwin Offray, a 3-point gap between the two of them. 4 points further back is Jackie Chu, with Jermaine Warren and Albert Brown completed the top 5. Stephen Shellerfield with that P6 finish, of course, with that brilliant drive to P6 on 15 points. Danny Kimball P7, Tony Tran P8, Fernando Takahashi P9, and Mark Senegal P10. And then the rest of our drivers listed there unranked, as they were not in attendance at Tsukuba and did not pick up any points, and therefore they'll need to get some points on the board tonight if they want to have a chance of winning or doing well in the Japan Cup. But looking to the season ahead, then, it is the case that we are at the penultimate round. We are in stage 3, round number 8, and we're at the Okayama International Circuit today. Well, last time out we were at Tsukuba, and in a week's time we'll be heading to Twin Ring Motegi for the season finale. And I should point out, by the way, as you can see by the dates there listed on the calendar, the races typically occur on Wednesdays, and the race that you're watching today did actually occur on what was Wednesday, the 6th of April, but we'll bring you all the racing action as if it were live. This is a post-race broadcast for those who are not aware. But as we look ahead to the season, of course, and what lies ahead, we take a look at the Okayama International Circuit today. The circuit map provided to us by simracingwiki.com, and this circuit located in the Mimasaka region of the Okayama Prefecture of Japan, and this track consisted of the conglomeration of 11 corners, 11 very unique corners here, in a very oddly shaped circuit, funnily enough, and it is one of those circuits whereby it's lesser known, and it is a very challenging one. For those of you of a little bit of an older knowledge and disposition, you may know this circuit as the T1 AIDA circuit from all the way up to 2005, when it was changed name to the Okayama International Circuit. And there's a bit of a history about this circuit, and a lot of the corners known by British driver names, i.e. world famous British drivers, and more on that story a little bit later. But as for our rules, we have the standard rule set as always in terms of the sprint races and the sprint race evenings, where drivers shall be running the iRacing baseline setup for all races with fuel loads restricted to 32%. Qualifying session will be broken into 2 equal halves, where the first half is for the AM drivers. They'll take the first 7.5 minutes, and then the second half will be for the pros. And as in the sprint race, the race will start under the manual double file rolling start procedure, with the formation being held up to the start-finish line, after which drivers may go racing. Each driver has 1 fast repair available, and a driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 25 or more instant points. Well, I think that's enough about rules and regulations and whatnot and introductions. You're all here for the racing. Indeed, I am as well. Let's head back to those live pictures. And as we see our drivers making their way around right now, we see parked in the pit lane there, albeit at a bit of a distance, perhaps a little bit camera shy tonight, Jason Landry, the Delta Motorsports driver from Canada. And after that brilliant performance in the Pro Class last week at Tsukuba, will he be able to make it 2 out of 2 in the Japanese Cup tonight and look to seal what will be the Pro Class Championship? He can't win it with a round to go, but he can put himself in the best possible position and put himself to be the favourite for the Japan Cup as well. We will have to wait and find out. But meanwhile, out of the circuit right now and flying around, we do have Edwin Offray, of course, and well, he will be looking to find a way to come back at what was a very difficult day at Tsukuba. He was able to pick up the P2, to be fair, so it doesn't sound like it was a difficult day, but it was indeed, because Duncan Moraes putting in that absolutely brilliant performance to take the win, albeit both of them in a great rivalry, and can Essential Races and Offray find a way to pick up a win here at the circuit. And we'll be bringing you on board and a lap guide of this circuit when we go into the qualifying session. But as you can see, as he makes his way down the back straight here, a very unique circuit, and one of those ones whereby I think some drivers really come to the foray and do very well. As we do say hello to all you guys and girls in the YouTube and Twitch chats there, particularly in the YouTube chat. There's a lot of you in there, including Olivier Deluc. We can also see ShadowFox49, also Mark Senegal and Duncan Moraes there. Good evening to you all, and if you are tuning in this evening, do not be shy. Feel free to say hi, whether you're on Twitch or YouTube. We don't discriminate. We can see both chats, and we hope you're all doing well and having a great weekend so far. What with this broadcast being brought to you on a Saturday, and everybody loves a good weekend, unless you're a weekend worker, of course. And then I do give my heart out to you. I used to know what weekend working was like, and I do feel but your potential pains and frustration with weekend working. But all the same, with only seconds to go before we transition over into qualifying, it is the case that over the course of the 15 minutes or the 7.5 minutes for each driver that's available, we'll be seeing how that grid order lines up, and well, how will everybody get on? That's the big question here as we transition over into that qualifying session. Now, as we go into the session, it will be the case that the AM drivers come out first and foremost, and normally the AMs do set the relative pace and give us a good indication of what the potential pace of the pros is going to be, but everybody making their way out of the pit lane right now, so it will be the case. We do have to wait a brief moment, although I do believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, we have a couple of drivers already out, and that's Lee Porter in particular from middle of the pack racing here as he makes his way out. Of course, representing that middle of the pack as a racing team, as well as a racing league organizer here on the Premier Sim Racing platform known only as iRacing on the PC. And as we can see, Lee Porter making his way around here in that very fetching black and dark blue liveried Honda Civic Type R, and it's the case that he makes his way down. Of course, as many of you know, if you've been tuning in since the start of the season, the Honda Civic Type R out of all the cars in the touring car racing class on iRacing, indeed the American Touring Car Racing Series in the real world, the Honda Civic Type R has a special place in my heart. I'm a massive Honda fan, but I'm not going to give it a personal preference or favourites towards the Honda drivers, of course, because at the same time, we have seen time and time again the Audi RS3 drivers, such as Fernando Takahashi here, as he makes his way through the sweeping left-hander there of what is turn number 2. It's the case the Audis have proven very strong at circuits whereby acceleration is a key factor, and they do not have too many quick succession corners whereby that gearbox, that very aggressive gearbox, seems to hold the car back but also give it a good strength in those acceleration races. And of course we do have Hyundai drivers such as Craig Parks here in the Hyundai Elantra as he makes his way through turn number 2 right now for Motors, and we also have Stefan Chalafu making his way around in what is the Hyundai Veloster here, and the only driver to make that switch, as we're to understand it, to the Hyundai Veloster, which was a little bit of a surprise to be fair. We expected a couple more potentially, but he decided to take the gamble and it seems to be paying off. But now, will it pay off for Lee Porter as he makes his way through the final corner here and goes on to the first flying lap of the session, and we ride on board to give you a debrief of what exactly that lap entails. So making his way up to the start-finish line, a long run to the start-finish line here before making his way into turn 1. Looking for his brake marker there, the 100-metre ball on the left-hand side, breaking down the gearbox to third gear. And it is the case, it tapers quite aggressively at the apex. He makes his way out to the corner and now into the sweeping left-hander at turn 2 here. It's all about a dab of the brakes and then balance the throttle through the corner. And as he accelerates out here, now making his way into the left into right combination at turn 3 into 4, left into right as he flows on through. The ball now coming down into the drop into turn 5, the hairpin style corner here. That's an uphill hairpin effectively. As you turn through the corner, you're going uphill. You'll get on that power earlier than you perhaps anticipate on a flat circuit, using the exit curve there to support the car and prop it up as he makes his way down the long back straight. And here we're expecting a lot of overtaking opportunities from the run out of the hairpin there, down into another hairpin at turn 6 on this back straight. So very long straight as he comes into the braking zone, breaking that 100-metre ball on the left-hand side of the circuit. And this being perhaps the slightest corner on the circuit, very tight to the apex as he powers out into the second half. Now down into turn 7 here, you see the change of road camp, or the change of road angle, as he makes his way through 7 into 8. All these corners now coming in very quick succession here, and this is where direction change of body roll is going to be important, as he has a brief break now, making his way up into turn number 8, into left-hander here. It's the S affecting turn 8 being the left-hander, and then very quickly confronted with a right-hander at turn number 9 as he flows on through, putting the car in the middle upon entry, and then a charge on through the apex as he now makes his way into turn number 10. 2 corners to go here, 2 right-handers, and here's the case, just a light lift off the throttle there for turn 10, and now into turn 11, breaking into the final corner here, and as he makes his way through in third gear. Now it's all about getting on that power as soon as possible and charging to the start-finish line. And what's this opening flying lap going to be from Lee Porter as he crosses the line in short order? It will be a 140.264, and we are now waiting for the rest of the lap times to come on in, and we can see Albert Brand there not going as fast, 4 tenths down in the Audi RS3 as he comes on through. What about an off-road by comparison? Well, he's making his way down through turn number 10 into 11 as we do see more and more times coming in. Well, his main rival in the championship of Duncan Moraes, a 1:38.7, and well, now what will an off-road be able to achieve as he comes to a line here? It's looking relatively good. It's not purple, however, and as he crosses that timeline, it's a 39.5, so he is the best part of 7 tenths off of that provisional pole time. Duncan Moraes strikes first blood here for Goldwing Motorsports AM as he makes his way through and around on another flying lap. Now as he comes down in towards turn number 5 here, what are we expecting in terms of the form at this circuit? Well, we do know that the Audi RS3, of course, very strong in terms of the acceleration stakes, but can struggle at circuits where there's a lot of heavy braking zones and a lot of corners in quick succession. We expect the Audi to struggle most likely in the second half of the lap, but it should do very well in the first half of the lap, including on this straight. Meanwhile, the Honda Civic Type R, more of the race car with the strong brakes and also that good tyre preservation. We're expecting the Honda Civic to go quite well here, but the car that should be going just as well, if not a little bit better in qualifying, is the Hyundai Elantra in the hands here of, for example, Mark Senegal as he makes his way through the downhill left to turn number 6. Turn number 7 there. I should get my numbering correctly as he makes his way through. Absolutely fantastic livery there on that Hyundai as well as he comes on through. And right now he is P2 in class, 6/10 down on Duncan Moraes, and I think we've got a lot of lap time still to come on in here from all of our drives, and we'll wait to see who is able to improve it. But Moraes has definitely set the pace by a significant margin as they make their way on through. Now, as we do see Senegal coming up, we hear that Lee Porter's improved to a P5 of 39.8, goes to him. As meanwhile, they come on through, and we can see Justin Braggan here making his way around for Middle of the Pack Racing League, or MOP Racing in short, as he comes on around. And, well, Christian Jasper, meanwhile, the Honda Civic seems to be coming out in force here, and it is the case that Jasper setting a 39.1, 3.5 tenths of Duncan Moraes, but right now the only driver in the AMS in a 38 is Moraes as they make their way around. And meanwhile, we can see Stefan Chalafu in P6. I mean, he's going to get a bit of a reputation for being in P6 since that car switch, because if it was the case he finished P6 last time at Tsukuba, and he's currently looking to qualify P6. But then well, it's the case that Fernando Takahashi says, actually, I'd like to take P6, thank you very much, and he does so there on the time board on the left-hand side of your screen. As these two drivers make their way on through, we do look a bit further around, and we look down to our driver who's at the bottom of the pack right now, and that is Danny Kimball here as he makes his way through turn number 2, and the Hyundai Elantra driver not having the best day at the office as Justin Braggan goes P3 there on what was a 139.2. But meanwhile, we do see Danny Kimball here struggling a little bit. He is 4 tenths off the next driver, Craig Parks, in P11, and we are hearing that Tony Tran is currently in the pit lane, and he's just parked there at the moment, so I do wonder if they've got a little bit of a problem with the car, and it's the case they can't quite get it out onto the circuit right now. Whether he's deciding he just wants to start from the back of the AMPAC, we will wait and find out as we do look to Albert Brand here, who makes his way out of what is on our circuit radar. That would be a turn number 9 and flying into turn number 10. Now, as he comes on through here, making his way down into turn number 11, we will be riding on board with Albert Brand as he comes on through, and he will go on to his final flying lap here. And let's see how it is for where's the Audi driver as Lee Porter improves to 39.7, putting in P8. Brand does not improve, and he has one more chance as he comes into turn 1 and gets it all sorts of wrong there. And Brand, well, just simply the car understeering, under braking, he makes contact with the tyre barrier. Well, that is Brand's qualifying session over before we could watch that lap, and as a result he will not be putting any more as Duncan Moraes improves even further to a 38.3. My goodness, well, that is an absolutely astounding lap. I do not think he needs to do anything else, to be honest, because Christian Jasper, number 2 right now, P2 in the standings on what is a lap that is 7.5 tenths down as we reach the halfway point of the qualifying session. So the pro drivers will now be given permission to start leaving the pit lane, and the AMS will start to finish off their current qualifying laps if they are on a hot lap. But my goodness, Jasper has got a long way to go. And where is an off-road here, you ask? Well, he is making his way right now through turn number 5 here as the Ascension Racing driver comes on around. Now, how can he respond to this, given the fact that Duncan Moraes has set such an absolutely brutal lap? We say it time and time again, but you do not normally see drivers out-qualify their peers by that margin. A couple of attempts, sure, but when it's over half a second, heading upwards towards a whole second, that is when you're seeing something magical. And will we see something magical in response right now? Well, we're not seeing anything from Stefan Chalafu or Christian Jasper or what is Jermaine Warren right now. Lee Porter on a better lap for himself, but he's down in what is P8 as we continue to watch here. What is Edwin Offred making his way on around, coming into turn number 7, and turn number 8, I should say, as he flows on through the left-hander into Ryan. Lee Porter improves to P7 with 39.589, so he is moving up. But meanwhile, Offred's got to make this one count. He is 300ths down on Mark Senegal here, and he will want to be on that second row as a minimum if he wants to go for the win here today. As he makes his way for the right-hander, what will it be? Well, he's improved in sectors 2 and 3. He crosses the line very shortly. And as he comes on through, what's it going to be from the Hyundai driver? He crosses the line, and it's P4, 39.3. So he's been able to mitigate the damage somewhat, but that is the end of the qualifying session for the AM drivers as the pros make their way around, and it'll be Rocco Avaf who takes them onto their flying laps, as we see in the rear view picture there, well, the DNA Motorsports machine, and I believe that's Jordan Butler getting it horrifically wrong coming out the final corner and having to lift off. But we're going to jump on board with Jason Landry as he takes us around in the Hyundai Elantra to give you a different perspective of a different TCR machine. So coming on into turn number 1 here, that 100-meter board, the braking marker for most, and flying on through here down to second gear, staying in a lower gear this time rather than third gear as we saw in the previous lap. And as he makes his way into left-hander here of turn number 2, bouncing the front in third gear before accelerating out. And as he comes on through here, how much will Landry straight line through left into right, through 3 into 4. He does so very nicely before braking into the uphill hairpin. Now coming down here, he comes down the gearbox, down to second gear once again as he makes his way on through. I think this is where we're starting to see the difference between the Hyundai Elantra and the Honda Civic Type R, and the fact that the Hyundai Elantra can use second gear in some of these corners, the lower speed corners. And as he comes charging around and down at the back straight here, heading up towards turn number 6, I suspect he'll be going in the second for this heavy braking zone, because at the end of the day it is a very slow corner. In fact, he comes all the way down to first and chucks the car at the apex as the rear of the car lifts up with the brake bias he's running. And as he makes his way through turn 7 here, clattering the apex curve, he's on a mission here. I think he feels he's in the zone as he flows through the left hand there at turn number 7, and heads down through 8 and up towards turn number, down towards turn number 8 right now. Get my numbers all out of order. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. But as he makes his way up towards turn number 9 here, flying through the right-hander, it is the case. It's looking good for Landry. He's currently setting personal best. Well, it's his opening flying lap, so he will, but he's looking very strong on our timing screens. In fact, you can't quite see it, but he is going purple in Sector 2 and Sector 3. And as he makes way through the right-hander, Rocco above immediately goes P2 overall, and Austin Farr goes better there. But what about Landry as he comes to the line? He's going to be across the line very shortly, and as he does, well, Landry sets provisional part of 38.077, and that's only his first lap when he's got maximum fuel in the car, and there's more rubber to be laid down on the tarmac here. I think we could be looking at a 37 or 2 from Landry and a couple of the other pros. We've still got plenty more laps to come on in, including from DNA Motorsports' own Tanner Dibble here as he makes his way through the final pair of corners, and as he flexes his way through, it is the case of rolling the car through the corners very nicely. Now, what will it be for Tanner Dibble as he crosses the line for the first time with just under what is 3.5 minutes left in this qualifying session? Well, it's P14 or 39.7. I think you'll feel there's a lot more out there as you can see just how much bias they're running towards the rear of the car in terms of the brakes, in the fact the rear ends of these front engine front wheel drive touring car machines are snapping loose under braking. And well, it sounds counterintuitive, the fact that you're going to see a front engine front wheel drive car snap loose at the rear, but that's exactly what our drivers want, particularly the pros. They want that rear end to come around as aggressively as possible because these cars are typically prone to understeer. Whether you've driven them in iRacing, whether you drive one of these cars in real life or somewhere in between another simulator, front engine front wheel drive is always associated with understeer first and foremost, and that's why drivers are putting as much brake balance towards the rear of the car as humanly possible, because that is the way they get the extra rotation under braking. And at a circuit like this, when we have got multiple corners with significant braking zones, you want the rear to come loose as soon as possible to get it through into that corner apex and get back on the power. And that's exactly what we're seeing from Tanner Dibble here as he makes his way around on his second flying lap and looking quite composed as the Audi driver as he comes on around. As he makes his way up towards what will be at turn number 8 here, we see Jordan Butler improving as Jason Landry is the first driver to go into the 37s with 37.844 off screen, but it is the case on our timing tower. We can see it. Thomas Toomey improves to 38.9. That puts him P6 overall, P5 in class, but we continue to look at Dibble here as he comes towards the end of his current lap. And as he flows on through here, well, Dibble looking very smooth. It may not be the fastest lap, but he's definitely enjoying himself out there by the looks of things. He makes his way through the final corner, and as he comes to the line, of course, it's that very long run to the line. We do have to wait until he gets 2/3 of the way down the start-finish straight before he hits that timing line. In this case, he moves up to P13 overall. That is P8 in class. As we look to Austin Farr here, one driver who's really looking to take the fight to Jason Landry, and well, currently he is P3 overall. That's P2 in the pro class, but between him and Landry is his teammate from Goldwing Motorsports AM, and that is Duncan Moraes, who has put in an absolutely phenomenal lap. And Austin Farr currently a 10th off of that, but he's still got time to improve out of this lap, plus one more after this lap to try and better his teammate. Now, as he makes his way through turn number 8 and up into 9 here, it is the case that Austin Farr really having to work the car. And well, one thing we should tell you a very quick little bit of trivia about, if you're wondering why this circuit has a lot of corners named after British drivers, but we'll be referring to them by their numerical fashion just to simplify things a little bit, it's because this circuit used to be, and I believe it still is, a privately owned circuit that was originally set up for the purposes of the wealthy and the rich from multiple countries, including the United Kingdom, to take their own cars around and do private races around. And over the years, it is the case that it opened up to more domestic cups. We're in Japan, the occasional international race, but it's primarily used today as part of domestic Japanese racing cups, and that's why you don't normally see the circuit on a calendar unless it's within Japan. But speaking of seeing things, we're going to be seeing at San Bernals. We're going to be riding on board with him very shortly as he takes the Audi RS3 out to the final corner here and goes on to one more flying lap. And that behind him, I believe, is Henry Morse as well from Goldwing Motorsports. We're going to be staying on board with the ultimate defensive driver, and that is San Bernals, who can make this Audi RS3 so wide like you wouldn't believe it. But as he makes his way out the open corner, up in 4th gear as he makes his way into turn number 2, and that shows you the gearing of the Audi RS3, just how aggressive that gearbox is as he makes his way through the left into right sweep. We're coming up towards turn number 5. And as he brakes into the hairpin here, not having to use 6th gear, but he gets very close to the rev limiter. And as he makes his way uphill here, 3rd gear into 4th gear, very high in the gear range by comparison with the other cars available. And that Audi now will be able to use its acceleration with Crow RS to charge down towards turn number 6. And I think we're going to see him go up into 6th gear very shortly as he makes way. He does indeed make the upshift there. Now braking into the turn 6 hairpin as he rolls on through with his teammate of Henry Morse behind him, using him as a little bit of a slipstream magnet as they make their way out 6 into 7 now. And this is where the Audi can come unstuck a little bit with curves, much like the Honda Civic Type R, albeit over recent balance and performance updates. Both cars have been made less sensitive to curbs, and as they make their way out to turn number 7 and down towards 8, it is the case that Van Olstee really trying to wring the neck of his car, as right now currently P8 overall, P7 in class, and he will want to improve as much as he possibly can. And as they make their way through the right hander, with the only driver to set a 37 is Jason Landry, and he's going to be coming across our timeline very shortly as we see here Van Olstee moving out of the way and releasing Henry Morse. I think it's the case he feels though this lap is not improving, and Henry Morse has improved in sector 1, but he's not improved in sectors 2 and 3. He comes out the final corner here. Will he be able to find a little bit more lap time? Toomey goes P6 and a 38.7. That's P6 overall, P5 in class, and Henry Morse crosses the line. It's not an improvement from Morse, and I do believe that is everybody's qualifying session said and done. Although I think Rocco Buff may have just crept onto another lap as he's making his way on through, but otherwise everybody else is done in this qualifying session. And well, when we do split those timing boards very shortly for you, ladies and gentlemen, or if we can split them, where you can see it is the case that in the Pro class, Jason Landry taking that provisional pole of a 37.8. I think that's pretty much confirmed as a pole at this point. Meanwhile, Austin Farr behind him, in fact, Austin Farr in the end setting his own 37, that only 200ths off of Jason Landry. The rivalry between the two of them is going to go to the bitter end, and then it is the, well, actually, no, my apologies, that is not correct. If we just get that corrected there, ladies and gentlemen, it's the case that Austin Farr being out-qualified by half a second in the end, when between him and Jason Landry on the grid, it will be Duncan Moraes, as we see at Rocco Buff, they're going quite slowly through a turn number 8, and I think he's come to the end of his qualifying session. But in the AM class, meanwhile, it is Duncan Moraes who has taken that pole position, 7.5 tenths clear of Christian Jasper and Justin Braggan P3, Edwin Offred P4 in the end. But that is qualifying complete. It is time for us to get ready to go racing here for the sprint. So as we do wait for the grid to form, let's take you through that grid one more time. Jason Landry lines up in pole in the end with an absolutely staggering lap, a 1:37.834, and Austin Farr lined up alongside him in P2. I believe Duncan Moraes has actually had a lap discounted due to track limits, so it's Austin Farr who lines up on the front row alongside Jason Landry. Duncan Moraes at P3, even with that lap discount, is still dominating in the AM class in qualifying, with Rocco Havaf alongside him on the second row. Henry Morse and Thomas Toomey, the two pro drivers, on row number 3. With Tanner Dibble and Sam Van Olstee on row at number 4, and then Christian Jasper and Justin Braggan, the two AM drivers, P2 and P3 in their class in terms of qualifying, they line up on row at number 5. Edwin Offred, P4 in class, P11 overall. He starts off our 6th row with Jordan Butler alongside him in P12 there for DNA Motorsports Pro. Behind them, it's Mark Senegal and Jermaine Warren on our 7th row, with Lee Porter and Fernando Takahashi on row number 8. Then Stefan Chalafu and Albert Brand on row at number 9, with Craig Parks and Danny Kimball making up our 10th row. And then on the 11th row, by his lonesome button, by no means least, is Tony Tran from Sunday GT Turtles, who brings up the rear of the field and did not set a qualifying lap in the end, as we wait for all of our drivers to finish off getting ready. And this is round number 8 of the Touring Car Racing Championship, as brought to you by the Middle of the Pack Racing League, and we are only moments away from going racing at the Okayama International Circuit in Japan. And when we do go racing, it'll be 20 minutes of full sprint action from start to finish. No pit stops expected unless the driver needs to repair damage on the car, and it is the case case, will we see the favourites in the respective championships, the overall championships, declare themselves as favourites going into the final round tonight, or will there be a twist in the towel as we do wait for the safety car to pull away for this partial formation lap, and it'll be Jason Landry who will take our drivers to the green when the safety car ducks into the pit lane on the final corner. As all of our drivers make their way away here, we do look to the blimp camera. You can see all the field are making their way away safely here as they come up into turn number 8. And overtaking highly possible here at the Okayama circuit. Whilst it does look a quite narrow circuit, there's some good runs between each corner, and that will give our drivers overtaking opportunities, particularly in the opening half of the lap. That's where the overtaking is going to be more prevalent, but as well as that, the run out the final corner down towards turn 1, that's where we're going to see some major battles, and it all kicks off at turn 10 here as Landry leads our drivers through. The safety car has already peeled away, to be fair. It's already peeled into the pit, so it's now for Landry to take everybody around as he groups and bunches everybody up. He's going to take everybody around to the start-finish line, which is 2/3 down the start-finish straight as he makes his way around. We look to the more local cameras here, and, well, my goodness, what a race we have on our hands, and we now just wait to go to the green. And it's lights out, and away we go for round number 8 of the Touring Car Racing League as they make their way down into turn number 1 here. And Landry gets a good start with Austin Farr having to defend immediately versus Rocco Avaf, who tries to go around the outside, but there's contact there between Duncan Reyes and Rocco Avaf, and Avaf is sent into the wall as they make their way out of turn 1. And this presents an opportunity here for other drivers to come on through, as we can see Henry Morse gaining, Sam and Olsen's are trying to gain through as well as they make their way in through the opening corners here. And Thomas Toomey and Tanner Dibble losing out as they come charging on through it and up towards turn number 5. Meanwhile, on the rear of your picture, you can see Jordan Butler trying to find his way past Justin Braggan here. He wants to get past the AM driver as soon as possible to go hunting after his pro peers, so they make their way out to turn 5. And as they come roaring on through here, it is the case that Rocco Avaf has already jumped to the pit with damage to the car. It is the case that Rocco Avaf's race is almost said and done before he's even made a first lap, as Jordan Butler's turned into the wall there. And, well, my goodness, I think there was some contact with what looked to be the Audi of, well, I believe that was the Audi of... Excuse me, I think that was the Audi of Tanner Dibble. No, that's not Tanner Dibble. I'm not 100% sure who he made the contact with, but that was some brutal contact, as we do see going up the inside. That's Thomas Toomey who makes a move, and Toomey, in fact, changing to the Veloster as well. We should have pointed that out. And Toomey is absolutely flying since the start of this race, and as he makes his way through the left-hander here of turn number 8, it is the case he's on a charge here, and, well, perhaps the Veloster is giving him a bit of extra velocity as he makes his way through turn number 9 and up towards 10. But as they flow on through, it is the case that there has been some major moments already. We have seen a couple of very nasty instances of Rocco Avaf really at the biting point with that major incident coming out of turn number 1. But after the opening lap, it is Jason Landry who currently leads by 0.8 of a second, breaking away from Austin Farr, who's in P2. Henry Moore's P3, followed by Sam Olsen P4. Then we have Duncan Reyes, the leader of the M class here, in P5 overall, followed by Thomas Toomey, battling here with Tanner Dibble. Dibble goes up the inside, but Toomey's going to try and hold the outside to take the inside into next corner here. Will he keep his nose ahead, or will he lose out? No, he keeps his nose in there, and as they make the way through the left hand, and now it's Dibble who has to deal with the situation as they make the way through the left into right. As they make their way through 3-4, it is the case that Dibble's still staying, and you can see the Audi's gearbox there just giving him the acceleration to stay in front by a small margin as they make their way through the uphill hairpin of 5. They come through here, and it does look as though Dibble gets it ahead for the time being as we ride on board the gearbox here of the Audi RS3 driver. But now he will have that faceful of the Hyundai Veloster as it gets closer and closer, and you can see Toomey coming out of the slipstream, a bit of door-to-door between the two of them as they make their way down towards turn number 6 here, and Toomey's going to commit for the move up the inside here behind them. Christian Jasper battling with Edwin Offrez, and Offrez turned as they make their way through the corners, and Offrez backs off the throttle. I think Senegal coming into the back there, just a little bit hot on the hills, and as they make their way down, we can see Justin Braggan here, and I believe it was Justin Braggan in the Audi who made the contact earlier on with, I think that was Jordan Butler, unless I'm very much mistaken, but that's by the by now as they make their way down towards turn at number 8, and as they come roaring on through, it is the case that only 3 minutes in, and this race has already seen quite a few instances. Some of them could be a major championship changing instance, as we hear that Rocco Avaf is leaving the pit lane now, but he is a whole lap down, almost 2 laps down on the field, and that is not what he wants to hear at the start of this race, of course. So this race engineer will be telling him that, or probably staying quiet on the radio and not telling him it, because he will already be very aware of it. But meanwhile, as our drivers make the way out the final quarter, 2 laps complete here, and we see that Sam Van Olst here on the offensive versus his teammate versus Henry Morse, but I think he'll wait rather patiently. He won't want to battle too hard as they make the way through. You can see Goldwing Motorsports here running 4 drivers in quick succession as they come on through, and behind it is then the case that Thomas Toomey here really having to try and hold at bay Tanner Dibble as they come on through and out of 2, both of them running wide there. Both of them will be given an instant point for track limits as they flow down and around. But meanwhile, we look a bit further back here for Stefan Chalafu battling with, I believe that is Albert Brand, as they come out of 2 through 3-4 here, and Chalafu's going to have to go around the outside, and he's going to have to hold that outside line all the way in through turn 5. They both make the way on through here, and Albert Brand, as he comes on through, you can see trying to go around the outside as well. Feely's got the momentum. It is Craig Parks, as Parks tries to use the slipstream as well of Chalafu, the 2 hardness working together, and as they make the way down the back straight here, you can see just a little bit further up in the camera, we do have Justin Braggan here trying to go around the outside of the way is Jermaine Moran, but he can't quite find the space to do so. He's given a tap on the back by Fernando Takahashi as they make the way out of the corner. But meanwhile, the battle for what is P15 overall P9 in class continues, and Craig Parks has found his way past Albert Brand for the time being, getting the move done into turn 6, and now Brand will be tucked in behind and looking for another opportunity in short order to come on through and try and retake the position. It's a critical position for this. That is the top 10. Craig Parks is sitting in P10 in class, the AM class right now, as they make the way on around and up through turns 9 through to 11 very shortly. But as they fly on through the right-hander, it is the case that we look from what is towards the rear of the field up towards what is the middle of the field. And I can tell you that right now it is the case that Edwin Offred continuing to try and hunt down Christian Jasper here as they make the way on to another lap. They'll be going very shortly on to lap number 4. 5 minutes complete, still another 15 minutes to go, but Offred will not want to finish behind Jasper. He will want to finish P2 in class as a minimum here to minimise the damage that will be done by Duncan Ray's taking another win if things finish as they are. As they make the way through the left-hander at turn 2, it is the case a little bit further back. You can see Mark Senegal starting to feel some pressure here from Jermaine Warren as they make the way through. Jermaine Warren having some connectivity issues here as they make the way up into turn number 5, and as they come flying on through into the hairpin, it is the case. Well, Mark Senegal doing everything right so far in order to try and hold on to what would be a P4 for him, one of his season best performances, but he's got a long way to go, and well, you can see a bit further back in the picture, and they are very gradually falling backwards at the moment. Justin Bragg and Fernando Takahashi. So Senegal may be thinking about whether just to let Jermaine Warren go, or will he decide to battle hard for it and potentially try and drag the other 2 drivers in, as we see there Justin Braggan coming in like a bull in a china shop in terms of his braking point for turn number 6, and where he's hooked it together. But in doing so, I think he's going to have taken a lot of life out of those front tyres and getting the car stopped as he makes his way through turn 7 and now heads up towards turn number 8, because that was a missed braking point by about 20 metres, and I've seen one like that as he makes his way down into turn number 8. As he flows on through here, I think he might be feeling a little bit of pressure from Zando Takahashi, and the 2 Audi drivers going strong here, to be fair, as they make the way up through 9 and head around to 10 and 11. Now as they come on through the corners here, no changes, no overtakes on this lap, or major overtakes, it should be pointed out as they come on through. But meanwhile, Jason Landry comes across that timeline, and as we look to leaders, setting the fastest lap of the race of 38.236, but Austin Farr, to be fair, not too far behind, only in terms of that lap time, only 8 thousandths off, so he's pushing quite hard as Lee Porter, oh my goodness, well, I'm not sure what's happened to Lee Porter, but I can tell you there is a wheel missing from the car. It's decided to part ways, and Lee Porter, well, I would presume, has been into the wall, and we'll try and get you a view of that later on, ladies and gentlemen, when we try and take a look back. But Lee Porter having a major moment, and well, that has seen him jump to the pits, and I think that is his race all said and done. Even if he comes back out on circuit, he will be quite a way off. As meanwhile, Christian Jasper battling with Edwin Offred as Offred tries to go round the outside at the hairpin. This is the battle for P2 in the AM class, P8 overall, and Jasper the one who has to defend now, as we see an Offred really going on the offensive here. Now as they make the way down towards turn number 6 here, it's an Offred on the inside, Jasper on the outside. Offred's already got his face ahead as he makes his way down to the braking zone, but it is the case that Jasper going deep. He can afford to with the Honda Civic. He does have the better brakes, but it is the case that Offred holds that inside line very well, and as they make the way through center, he gives Jasper a little bit of space on the inside if he dare lunge it. But right now, as they make the way for the double left to turn 7, it is the case that Jasper has to back off, and Offred Alfred finally getting that move for P2, and now he's got a long way to go if he wants to try and catch up to Duncan Race, who is the best part of about 7 seconds up the road, up in P5 overall, as the Am drivers continue to battle for position. But as they make the way through, meanwhile, Stefan Chalafu battling with Albert Brand here as they come up through turn number 18 to 9, and Chalafu, I believe, holding off Brand, who had to go round the outside if he dared to dream the move, as they make the way through 9 and up towards 10. And Chalafu continues to push on here as we ride on board with the Privateer as he comes out of 10 and down into 11. We see there just in front the wider wheelbase of the Hyundai Elantra actually leading to Craig Park siphoning the car through the corner, saw the rear end step out, but Chalafu with a much narrower wheelbase and a much narrower car in general, enjoying the velocity quite comfortably here as he makes his way into that braking zone for turn number 1, and as he rolls them through the right hand, he's looking very composed right now, it has to be said. And well, will he be trying to tease out a move in short order? We will find out as he makes his way through 2, but I think if he is looking for a move, Albert Brand's also looking for one, because we look back from the car of Stefan Chalafu, we'll see that Albert Brand here is closing quite a bit as they make the way down into turn number 5, but not enough to look at the move. And in fact, Brand goes a little bit deep there, and well, he can use the straight line performance of the Audi to make up for that, but I think Brand needs to remove those slight mistakes in order to find a way. As meanwhile, a little bit further up the road, we looked at, oh my goodness, and Justin Braggan trying to do a switch back there, and in doing so hooks the left tyre, the rear left tyre, onto the grass and takes with him what I do believe that was being taken off the road with him, unless I'm very much mistaken. I think Mark Senegal got a tap on the rear end, and he almost took Jermaine Warren with him as well. So in the end, Justin Braggan coming in a little too hot with an attempt at a fake from inside to out, but it is the case that it has not worked out for Justin Braggan, and as a result, he has dropped all the way down to P14 overall. That's P18 class when he was battling for P4 in the AM class as they make the way on around. You can see what he was trying to do, but I think he just overswept that left-hand turn. As meanwhile, in the battle for P4 and P3 in the Pro class, and this is overall as well, you can see that it is the case that Henry Morse has literally got Sam Benoist glued to his backside. And I do wonder how long it'll be before Goldwing Motorsports Pro let their two drivers race one another, because right now they're running nose to tail, and I can tell you that Thomas Toomey and Tanner Dibble are slowly closing up. Very gradually they are closing up, they're not falling away, they've closed up over the last couple of laps. We will wait and see as they make the way on around, but as we bring up here the battle box in the bottom right corner of your screen, so you can see the deltas between drivers in their respective battles. It is the case that right now, well, Goldwing Motorsports are telling their drivers to stay in formation as they make the way down the back straight. Now as they come on down here, you can see Duncan Ray's pulling it out of the slipstream there. He does not, the AM driver does not want to gain too much of an overspeed running in the double toe of his pro peers as they come down. He just wants a peaceful race, and you can understand why, because his main rival is all the way back halfway down the straight right now, and Onofre there as he makes his way down for Ascension Racing. And as he comes down through turn number 6, he's continuing to press on, albeit he's got a long gap to close up. As meanwhile, Justin Braggan battling with Craig Parks. He's going to try and go around the outside. He's going to try and do what he tried to do at his corner last time, which is that outside line, but this time not catching the grass on his way in and going around the outside there. It's a classic move, and he gets it done versus Craig Parks, moving up a position there to P7 in the AM class, P13 overall. A nice move there from Braggan. Now he's got a gap of what is 5.5 seconds to close down to Fernando Takahashi if he wants to gain another position and recover what was a top 5 finish in this race as they make the way through turn number 8 and up into 9. As they roll them through once more here, we do see a little bit further down the order with Jordan Butler here having to recover things after what's been a difficult day at the office. We have heard that Lee Porter, with all that damage that he picked up, has retired from this race. Completely understandable, with a whole wheel coming away from the car, and we will try and bring you back exactly what happened to Lee Porter at the end of today's proceedings. We'll take a look back at that, but we can see right now Jordan Butler here trying to put some pressure on Kimball, battling with the AM drivers as the pro. He won't get any points for this, he just needs to find his way on through. He's got a long way to go if he wants to get up against his pro peers, because right now Jordan Butler, P18, Tanner Dibble, his first target is all the way up in P7 to give you an idea as they make their way through the opening sequence of corners. But Fernando Takahashi, meanwhile, trying to make his way through here on the inside into turn 5 versus Mark Senegal, and they have been battling these two over the last lap. They started the battle and now they continue it as they flow out to turn 5 and up the hill they go, and you can see it is the case still side by side, both of them there trying to assert dominance, but it is the case. The Audi driver of Takahashi just has a little bit of an overspeed initially, but now Senegal coming back in the run down towards turn number 6 because he's had that wide line. He's been able to get on the throttle earlier. They go side by side through the corners. A tiny little tap, a little bit of a rub there, but we absolutely love it in this racing. Rubbing is racing in touring cars, and as they make the way down through turn number 7, it is the case. You can see Senegal continuing to try and hold that inside line, but in the end he has to back out because the second part of turn 7 tapers too much at apex, and if he was to keep his nose in there, he would essentially have to brake so hard on the corner, he'd have to stop the car. But meanwhile, Chalafu battling with Albert Brand, and Brand on the offensive, in fact, trying to take the position as they make the way into turn 9, and Brand will have to give Chalafu the space on the inside as they go through 8. It's the switch back to 9 now, and Brand going all in on the chips here as they make the way through turn 9. You can see what Brand's trying to do. He's trying to force Chalafu to have to back out through the corner, but Chalafu's saying, no, I'm here to stay. They make the way down through 10. They both give each other space, but in battling like this, Danny Kimball now trying to get involved as well as the middle of the pack racing lead driver as they make the way out of the corner, and there's Jordan Butler just tucking in behind thinking, can I come on through, please, guys? I'm not in this race, I know, but it's the case, can I please come on through? As they make the way down towards turn number 1, and you can see Chalafu trying to look for the move. He can't quite find it as Kimball backs off there to let Jordan Butler through, which he doesn't have to do, to be fair. The AMs do not have to give way to the pros if they're on the lead lap. It's the case they're allowed to race, but it is the case that Kimball, that I think, recognising it's worth letting Butler through so he can try and bring Chalafu and Brand to him a little bit later on. We'll wait and see whether that works out in practice with 6 minutes to go, and also the final lap of this race. And Okayama right now having produced a lot of fantastic racing, and we look back up to the battle for P3 overall and P3 in the pro class, and we can see it's the case that Morse and Bernolst here literally nose to tail, but neither one of them daring to make a move or starting to kick off what is the battle. I suspect in the final couple of minutes we will see the two teammates start to take the gloves off and go to war, but we'll wait and find out. As meanwhile, just behind there, Duncan Reyes, well, he can just patiently wait. He doesn't really have to lift a finger on this, given the fact it is one of the situations where he is the AM driver, where he's surrounded by pros both in front and behind him. You can see how much Toomey and Dibble have closed up over the last 4 laps, where they're right there now. And what I do wonder if Reyes will be given the requirement, or the task, if you will, to try and hold Toomey and Dibble at bay in order for Goldwing Motorsports to get the maximum possible points in both the pro and AM classes. We will wait and see as they make the way down towards the end of the current lap. 5 minutes to go. They go on to what is lap number 10 here, and as they flow on through, we can see Edwin Offred just a bit further back. He is slowly gaining on that pack of cars in front of him, particularly Duncan Reyes, but the gap still about 6.5 seconds. It is not a gap he is bringing down in a quick order. In fact, in that last lap, a little bit slower than the drivers in front of him. So I do think it may be the case here. He has to look at damage limitation first and foremost now as he makes his way on around and look to bring home that P2 in class. With Alberto Alvarez not racing again tonight, this is a huge opportunity for Duncan Reyes and Edwin Offred to pick up key points to make it a three-way battle for the overall championship come at the final race in a week's time. But we will wait and see, as meanwhile we do look from an Offred to Craig Parks, who is looking to try and find a way past Justin Bragg. And we ride on board here with the Motus driver as he makes his way through the right-hander and looks to try and get on through. Now, as they make the way out, notice Craig Parks are getting a little bit too close to the back of Braggan as they were coming through the apex of turn 5. And I think Braggan trying to park the car a little bit in apex. He knows he's got the acceleration advantage in the Audi versus the Hyundai, so he can afford to be a bit slower at apex if it prevents Parks from carrying momentum through the corner. And as they make the way through turn number 6 here, it could also be the case that Braggan has taken a lot out of the tyres. To be fair, Braggan has really pushed that Audi to its maximum. We've seen time and time again right on the limit racing, and that may be now he's just finding those front tyres are really a pain to turn through the corner, which can happen in these machines. And to be fair, we normally see it somewhere in the region of around 4 to 7 minutes to the end of these sprint races where the tyres do start to go off. And I think Braggan is starting to hit that cliff as he makes his way through turn number 9 as they run through. You can see Parks there really aggressive through the corner, not tight to the apex. He's carrying a lot more speed, and I think, well, if he can find a way to get close at the opportune moment, he will be trying to seize a move as they make the way through the final corner here to the end of what is their 10th tour of the circuit. And as they roll them through here, it is the case he's still got some time to try and find that move before the end of the race. But as they come across that timing line this time around, it is one of those situations whereby with Jordan Butler here between Chalafu and Brand is running off into the distance, and Chalafu right now has got more to look at behind him in the form of Danny Kimball than he has in front of him, as Kimball is inching closer corner on corner, and it is the case Butler and Brand are disappearing off into the distance. as they make the way around through turn number 2. It is the case coming down the back straight already. We can see it is Sam Van Olst and also Henry Morse once again, and the two teammates not taking the fight to one another still. It is the case, 2.5 minutes to go. Neither one of them opt into battle as they make the way on around. But speaking of battles that could be building up very shortly, well, Tanner Dibble here all over the back of Thomas Toomey as they make the way through turn number 7 and head up towards 8. And as they come out of the double left and make the way down towards turn number 8, it is the case that Dibble just not able to find a way to get close enough. And I do think that Toomey is being aided by the fact he has the double toe of the, well, he has the triple toe in fact, that drives in front, and therefore he's not losing out on the straights to the Audi as much as Dibble would like. But still 2 minutes to go, and it will be 2 more laps here at Okayama, and anything can happen in the time remaining. Of course, it's not over until the checkered flag waves and that line is crossed, and you can see right now as both Dibble and Toomey go wide. In fact, Dibble just launches the car up onto the gravel a bit too much, and meanwhile we can see Van Olst here, he's very close once again, but not looking to make a move. He just sits there and waits, and to be fair, he's a very patient driver, Van Olst. If it is the case that he's just sitting behind and defending for his teammate right now, well, he is an absolutely brilliant team player, and I think Goldwing Motorsports will really appreciate that as they make the way out to 2 and up through 3, 4 and to 5. But as they roll them through the fast sequence of corners once again, we do look back because Danny Kimball here on the back of Stefan Chalafu with 2 laps remaining. He's going to look to the inside here. This is the battle for P10 in the AM class, but as he looks that inside line, he can't quite make the move stick. Instead, he has to back out. He tries to get Chalafu to go deep, make a mistake, but Chalafu makes nothing of it and instead stays in there. But meanwhile, we look back up towards the front of the field here. Well, if he was going to go for a move, he's close enough to dare to do it, but he doesn't go for it. And that was Van Olst on Morse. But meanwhile, Dibble looking for that potential move once again, and he just cannot find it wherever he puts the car. And you can see how close he's now trying to get as they make the way into the first part of 7, all over the back of Toomey, but he just cannot get that nose alongside, and that's what he needs. He needs a way in, and he can't quite find it as they make the way on through up into turn number 8. As they flow through here, it is the case that we do have our race leader just coming out the final corner. We will go on to what is a 13th and final lap. Unlucky for some, but hopefully not for all, as our drivers make the way around right now. And Justin Braggan, meanwhile, a bit further down the road, he's battling with Mark Senegal here as they come up into turn number 8, and Braggan on the inside. Senegal has to go very deep in order to give him the space, and as they make the way through here, the damage is done because now Senegal has to defend versus Craig Parks, who tries to come on through as well, and well, Parks does not find a way around the outside, but it is the case that Craig Parks will be looking for that, as meanwhile Tanner Dibble goes to the move on the inside of Thomas Toomey in turn 1, but Toomey comes back here into 2. You can do this, they can go 2 wide through the sweep, and as they make the way through the left hander here and head up towards turn number 5, it is going to be side by side, they're neck and neck as they come into 3. Into 4 they go. It is going to be Dibble on the inside as they make their way down to 5. He tries to outbrake his opponent, but remember, if he outbrakes him here, it's the long run down towards turn number 6, and as they make their way through, you can see all over the back of Dibble is Toomey. He's all there, and as we ride on board, Toomey trying to find a way on through, and it's going to be side by side as they make their way down long straight. Sam Van Olst meanwhile looking for that potential move on Henry Morse, but meanwhile we focus here on Toomey as he tries to do what many have tried to do, which is the switchback dummy, but it hasn't worked. As we can see, it's the case that Dibble holds firm, and now I think Toomey's running out of tarmac to try and get the move done on this final lap as they flow through turn number 7 and head up towards turn number 8. But meanwhile we look from them to the driver who's coming through the final 2 corners. Well, he qualified on pole by quite the margin in, by over half a second versus Austin Farr. He comes through the final corner, and if he wanted to make another statement, that championship is his. Here it is, because as Jason Landry comes down to the line, it will go to the final round, but you'd think he's the favourite because he crosses the line. Your race winner here at Okayama International in the pro class and overall. Austin Farr will come home P2 in the end, and a brilliant drive from start to finish, and it will be Henry Morse who peels over to the side. They go for the formation finish. Goldwing Motorsports, it's Morse ahead of Van Olst, and it is Duncan Moraes who makes it another win. A fantastic drive from the Goldwing Motorsports AM driver to take the win here at Okayama, and it's Tanner Dibble P6, Thomas Toomey P7, and then it is Edwin Onofre who comes home P2 in the AM class, P8 overall. Another podium for Onofre, but not the result he will have wanted today, and it is Christian Jasper who completes the AM podium in a superb drive from Christian Jasper, and I think he will be very proud of what he's achieved here today, with Jermaine Warren P4, another top 5 finish for Warren, a good performance, and Fernando Takahashi with a return to the top 5 in the AM class. It's been some time since we've seen him in the top 5, but the privateer racing in the Audi will be very pleased with that result. I'm sure the team will be very happy with that. Justin Braggin at P6 there in the AM class as well. And well, what a fantastic race from start to finish. And indeed, Okayama International has produced some fantastic racing here today. And well, some drivers not having the best races by comparison, but for the most part, frantic action up and down the field. And that's what we love to see. Outside of our top 10, it was Fernando Takahashi, Justin Braggin, Mark Senecal, Craig Parks, what was also Albert Brand there completed our top 15, Jordan Butler P16 at the pro class, and it's P7 in the pro class for Jordan Butler, Stefan Chalafu P17, Danny Kimball P18, Tony Tran P19, Rocco Avath P20 and Lee Porter P21. But this man right here, Jason Landry, well, the Delta Motorsports driver, he needed to make a statement after the disaster of the British Touring Cup rounds, and he is making that statement. And I think Austin Farr at this point has got to try and pull something magical out of the bag and see if the racing gods will agree with him in the season finale, because Landry right now is looking unstoppable. And the same for Duncan Reyes right now. He will be taking the fight to Alberto Alvarez in the final round. We can't count out Edwin Onofre, to be fair, but now it is the case that Onofre is the outsider in the challenge, but he's up there as well. It is going to be a brilliant three-way fight for the championship in the AM class in the season finale. But whilst we see our drivers making their way into the pit lane, it's only fair that we take a look back at what happened to Lee Porter much earlier on. Let's jump back and find out what caused the Honda driver to lose a tyre off the car. Well, as we take a look back here, so this was much earlier on in the race, and well, as it finished, so Lee Porter is making his way on around. In fact, well, Lee Porter just making contact with the wall there. That was not when Lee Porter had the major moment. Well, we can't quite find it, ladies and gentlemen, and we do apologise for that. I think Lee Porter just tucking it into the wall there out of perhaps frustration at what happened, but we won't be able to see the incident. But from what I'm hearing, I think he made a mistake and went into the wall coming out to the final corner. But with that is all we've got time for today. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. And if you do want to know more about the Middle of the Pack Racing League community, why not check us out at our official Discord. That's the MPRL Discord, link available on the screen. Alternatively, if you are a Twitter user, you can check us out at our official Twitter. That's twitter.com/MOP Racing. But with that, we now only have one round remaining, and that is for next time. We will be heading to Twin Ring Motegi, round number 9 on Friday, the 15th of April, 2022. That's what we'll be bringing you your broadcast. The race itself will be happening on Wednesday, the 13th of April, but we'll be bringing you all the racing action as if it were live on that Friday. And how will the Japanese Cup conclude? How will our overall championships conclude? Who will be our prize winners? We will have to wait and see. But until then, thank you very much for watching. We have been at Middle of the Pack Racing League. I have been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit. And until next time, have a great end to your weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.